comes to our roundtable discussion. In recent years, China and Europe have become increasingly attractive for biotech companies seeking R&D partnership, new distribution market, or investment capital. Yet we all know that the technology will not work out of the lab to be translated on their own. That's why we invited 4 guest speakers today at different stage of their company development to share respective experiences. I will give a very brief introduction here. So our first guest speaker is Dr. Miguel Forte, CEO of BIOWIN Therapeutics. As the name suggests, so BIOWIN Therapeutics focus on the development of cell therapy and cell therapy products for orthopedic and bone diseases. In the year of 2020, Mr. Forte signed agreements with 2 Chinese companies to commercialize their allowed technology in China. And our second guest speaker is Ms. Candido, Fabrizia Candido. She is now the Asian account manager of Radiomics. She is a sinologist with good understanding of Chinese business culture and is now busy working on the Chinese market entry strategy for Radiomics, a next generation imaging research company focused on AI-powered healthcare. And our third guest speaker today is Dr. Yijun Chen, who is the general manager of AuroRNA Biotechnology. This name may sound new to you because actually this is a very new joint venture that is funded by China Grand Pharma, a very innovative Chinese biopharma company, together with AuroRNA, a Belgian clinical stage company. So Dr. Chen Yijun will be joining us from Nanjing, China, where the joint venture is based. And our fourth guest speaker is Dr. Yun Zhu. She obtained her doctorate degree in Netherlands and now working as a senior business manager in Europe for BGI Group, the world's leading provider of genomic sequencing services and proteomic services. Last but not least, we are very honored to have Marc Dechamps, a very experienced pharma industrial expert. He is international affairs representative of BIOWIN, life science cluster of the Walloon region, and president of CEBR, the Council of European Bioregion. Marc, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Lixia. So it is really my pleasure today to moderate the discussion we will have at the roundtable. And because the time is running, I would like to immediately kick off the discussion by asking all of you, starting with you, Miguel Forte, about the impact of the pandemics for your company. Was it positive? Was it negative? Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Thank you, Marc. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to really discuss about relationships from Belgium companies and China, and we'll have an example of that down the road. Thank you, Lixia, for the introduction, and thanks, Marc, for the question. So the COVID pandemic actually impacted all of us, but I think all of us found solutions around it. We've been able to do business at the distance, and we've been able to be creative. As an example, the studies we're conducting globally, we've been able to more and more do some of the monitoring and the activities at the distance. But even more relevant for the discussion here, we've been able to establish a partnership with 2 Chinese companies with actually one single face-to-face meeting at JP Morgan before the pandemic started. And then all the other discussions, including due diligence and even the visit to our installations and manufacturing setup, was done at a distance with the use of technology. So if there is a will, there will be a way to do it. And so the pandemic has taught us that resilience, drive, and clear vision of where we want to go can overcome the challenges, some of them very significant challenges like the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I'm looking to you, Fabrizia. Could you elaborate also on that from Radiomics perspective?
Yes, indeed. As Miguel, I also would like to thank you all for the invitation, and Lixia also for the introduction. So I think that COVID for radiomics really represented the Chinese concept of Weiji, which is a crisis made of danger but also opportunity in the same time. Because, for example, it affected the onboarding of new employees that were obliged to work from home, and myself included. I started working from radiomics from Italy, and for 3 months I was stuck at home. Then I arrived here and I had to home working from my house in Belgium. Also the opportunity to network by participating in face-to-face events, the opportunity to travel, to explore potential partnership abroad. And some target countries like China are still very difficult to access due to very strict COVID rules. And find the right partner, build a strong connection, and the so-called guanxi online is a quite complex challenge. But nevertheless, COVID also allows us to accelerate and optimize our digital tools and communication, to explore the application of our technology to the respiratory field. For example, we developed a radiomic signatures called COVIA for the detection of COVID-19 from CT scan, and it is already in use in the CHU Liège. And also the European project Dragon, which is aimed to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop a decision support system capable of delivering a more precise coronavirus diagnosis and a more accurate prediction of patient outcome. All of this is based on a federated machine learning system, and Radiomics is the leader in this project, which involves 18 partners from high-tech, small, medium enterprise, academic research institute, and hospitals that are around Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and the UK. So it was really a challenge, but also an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Fabrizia. I'm going to you, Mr. Chen, because during the pandemic, you created a GV with a company I know quite well, which is Eternal Immunotherapies. So please, I leave it to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Marc. Thanks for the question. And I also appreciate the invitation from our organizer. And I think, that Ms. Forte and also Fabrizia, they already share some challenges and inconvenience brought by the COVID-19. I think I must admit that the COVID-19 pandemic is actually a global challenge to the human beings and our society. I think every country is suffering from a different, aspect. Although currently there are several vaccines that have been urgently approved, but I'm very honest to say I don't think we can see the light from the tunnel. But however, when we come back to talk about the field of the mRNA vaccine, this is what I'm working on. Actually, COVID-19, the pandemic is a catalyzer for the field. We know that before the COVID-19, there was quite a lot of the controversies regarding whether mRNA is a druggable, whether it's safe enough to be administered in human being. But with the approval of 2 mRNA vaccine, I think it's shed light on this field. So when we come back to our company, the AuroRNA Biotechnology, which is a joint venture of the Grand Pharma China and the Xing Immunotherapeutic. Xing Immunotherapeutic is an mRNA-based therapeutic company at the clinical stage. Currently I think because of the COVID-19 pandemic, currently the application of mRNA vaccine make it quite obviously a very easy decision to join into the race for Grand Pharma. We all know that the mRNA is quite hot now, but when we take the clock back to the January 2020, at the very beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, actually China was in the pandemic, in a panic, as well as the global pharma industry and the financial market. But actually, we started to invest in the mRNA field from 2019. So when the COVID-19 outbreak, we smelled the opportunity and realized that the time for the mRNA field is coming. So in fact, it became quite easy for us to make the decision for the equity investor to Xing and also to form the strategic partnership with Xing. So thank you, Marc.
Thank you, Chen. Looking to you now, Mrs. Chu from BGI Europe. Could you elaborate also on that topic?
Yeah, so first I would like to thank you for inviting me here, and thanks for the introduction. So BGI is a top leading sequencing company in the world. So in this pandemic, we are one of the first companies have developed the test kit and is still selling worldwide. And also we have developed and helped to build many COVID test automated labs in many places. So we have shown what we could do and how fast we could respond to this urgent need from this particular situation. And we also have bring the power of biotech to fight against the COVID. So that's, I think, the most challenging and what we could do through this pandemic thing.
Thank you, Mrs. Xu. Now, I would like to discuss a little bit more with you, Miguel, with your company, by the way, BIOWIN Therapeutics. You mentioned that during the pandemic, you signed an agreement with Chinese companies, so to my knowledge, Link Health and Pregene, to develop and commercialize the AuroRNA technology in China. Could I ask you what guided your choice of these partners in China, and who made actually the first move? You mentioned the meeting at JP Morgan. Was it you? Was it the Chinese partner, or all together?
Thank you, Marc. And as I said, we've been able to put that agreement in place. But let's take one step back. Allo is a cell therapy that takes advantage of MSC-derived cells to accelerate the formation of bone. So in fact, gives you the opportunity to address some unmet medical needs like difficult fractures or need to repair bone, but rests on a very high-level technology using, as I said, MSCs and differentiating them for a therapeutic effect. The DNA, the nature of bone therapeutics, is to develop assets with limited capacity at this stage for commercializing those assets. So it is our strategy to engage with potential partners that would help us on further our capacity to develop the products, but above all, have a geographical reach beyond what we can do ourselves as a company. And reaching out to markets which are very relevant with significant unmet medical needs and eager for new technology like the Chinese market and the Asian market, we would not be able to do on our own. We needed to find a partner which would have interest in the technology, knowledge on the new technologies, but also ability and reach to commercialize. And being able to interact with the local structures, to start with the regulatory, but also with physicians, and eventually be able to commercialize. So we were on the lookout for Chinese partners, and we've actually engaged with multiple. And as I said, we had a first very constructive face-to-face discussion at JP Morgan in 2020. And then we subsequently did, as I said, everything at the distance. But we really realized one thing, is that the companies had already knowledge and eagerness about the cell therapy technology. And that was a key criteria for us to be able to have a partner that was understanding what we were doing. But they also had the ability to interact locally with the regulators and had experience on that. And they were able to understand the vision of what we wanted to do for commercialization. So the process took the normal process. And since we've signed the deal at the end of last year, we have been continuing a very strong and collaborative interaction. I mean, I must say it is a pleasure, and we've been surprised with the drive, the knowledge, the thoroughness, and the collaborative spirit of the relationship we have. And we have from the start prepared a clinical trial in China, which went through very positive and good discussions with an NMPA, the Chinese regulatory authority, and we're on the verge of actually moving on to implementing the clinical trial. So to summarize, we needed an organization that understood the technology, could have local implantation, be able to take the technology and down the road commercialize. And that's what we found, and we're very pleased with the interaction currently.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for your very relevant insights and very important, I think, for the audience as well. Coming back to you, Fabrizia. So I know obviously a little bit Radiomics, and I read recently that your ambition really for the next one is to focus on globalization of your product and your technology. Could you tell us what you are looking for with regard to China? And by the way, I think also that US is on target.
Yes. So the first step for us is to understand how the Chinese market would welcome our offer and to find a trustful partner. This is really of main importance for us. A partner which can support us in understanding the market and also lead us to the right target. As mentioned also before, due to COVID, this is not an easy task. Virtual events have somehow allowed us to develop some connections and some lead this year, but we really look forward to the possibility of joining mission to China in the future. In the meanwhile, we are working on our preparation. So also, as Renzo said in the previous intervention, we are doing our homework. So we are delineating our possible targets, both in the oncology and respiratory field, our local competitors, the size of the pharma and biotech market that can be interested in our product and solution, the regulatory environment, indeed, the steps that are required, and also a territorial analysis of where we could potentially set up our presence one day. We also carefully follow the geopolitical situation between the European Union and China, and also the internal policies that the Chinese government is implementing toward artificial intelligence and advanced technology in the biopharma sector. And we also have worked on the translation of our materials in Chinese to be easily accessible. Indeed, there are hard challenges like the linguistic barrier or the high risk IP and trademark protection situation, and the differences in the treatment that China accords to local and foreign firms, and the advancement of the Chinese company in AI, which increased the competition. But we think that there are good opportunities that are worth the effort. For example, if we think about the fact that China is the second largest pharmaceutical industry globally, and we think so that the effort is actually worthy.
Thank you, Fabrizia. Thank you for explaining your strategy towards China. Coming back to you, Chen, obviously with Gan Pharma, as you explained, you invested into Eterna Immunotherapies and a big investment, by the way, in the Series B, and then you moved to the creation of the joint venture. I would like to ask you two questions. How the collaboration is working today between you and the Belgian companies, and is the joint venture model the future model for this type of collaboration?
Okay, thank you, Marc. So I think currently we are working quite smoothly between AuroRNA and Eterna. And currently we are built up a 2,000 square meter R&D platform and a pilot scale at GMP facility in Nanjing. This platform is handing over to our R&D team to start the research activity in this month. And this platform can support our discovery studies and process development, and as well as clinical sample manufacturing until phase 3 clinical trial. And parallelly, we are working closely with our Eterna partner to transfer the mRNA manufacturing and the LNP formulation technology from Eterna to the China side, as well as the quality system. Meanwhile, we are exploring the pipelines in the fields of cancer immunology, infection disease, and also like a genetic deficiency disease. So coming back to the joint venture model, very honest to say, I don't think the JV is a very common model for the cross-border collaboration. You may notice that in the past few years, most of the cross-border collaboration in China are product or pipelines in license. I think this, the in-license model is relatively straightforward, but making a joint venture is another story. Manufacturers need to be considered. The most important one, I think, is about the corporate strategy, which will guide your collaboration model. And it's a very long-term commitment, which is much longer than a life cycle of a product. So without a very clear corporate strategy and the determination from the senior management team, I think the collaboration will get lost in between. Thank you, Marc.
Thank you very much for those explanations, Eugene. And yes, I was aware that it was really a corporate strategy of Grand Pharma to go in this direction. And that's a very interesting model anyway. So, Yijun, actually, what was your experience to enter the European market? Because I know that you have already different subsidiaries all across Europe. And what were the opportunities and the challenge in developing your activities and your partnership in Europe?
Yes, thanks, Marc. So BGI has been in the European market for more than 15 years, and we have collaborations across the whole Europe. I think trust is the most and the first important thing we have to build with our collaborators and with our clients. And for BGI, we are always thinking for a long-term relationship with them. And secondly, we think to have a localized team, localized supply chain will help to build the business in Europe. So we have staffs localized across Europe in different sites, and we have labs built in different sites in Europe. And we are also going to build more labs in Europe in the coming future. So I think that's the most important things to entering this market. So, you know, BGI Group has many sectors in our company. So we have collaborations with, in Europe, we have worked with governments, work with academic industrials, and also hospitals, and also many other pharmaceutical companies. So our investing department also looking for like the novel cutting edge technology in the IVD market. So that's we are happy to investing in here.
Thank you very much. And as my information is correct, you don't have already subsidiaries in Belgium, so we really look forward to see you in our market. Now, I would like to close this roundtables with actually your feedback for other companies, and first looking to the Belgian companies, Miguel, and after you, Fabrizia. Could you give to the Belgian life science companies a kind of hint or tips if to help them actually to develop activities in China? Starting with you, Miguel.
Sure. Thanks, Marc. I think. From what I've said before, I think it's important to find a strong relationship based on the strategic criteria and the vision of where you want to go. I think if we also take a step back, and I would like to take the opportunity to comment that another thing that the pandemic gave all of us, and Yijun actually mentioned that, is the relevance of the field, not only addressing the sudden unmet medical need, but supporting a lot of other unmet medical needs. So the field is vibrant, it's expanding, and it's providing a lot of opportunities and addressing a lot of patient needs. In addition to that, Belgium is making a significant commitment, and we saw Prime Minister recently in an event where there is a commitment to make Belgium the Valley of Health and biotechnology. So a strong commitment from the political will, from the structures, from cash, from the companies to make us a preferred environment within Europe. So we should take advantage of that internally and make that a plus to the relationship with partners that we have all over, including China. I think for us, for markets and environments that are geographically and culturally distant from where we are, it's important to have a partner with a strong dialogue, a strong identity, and the ability to really align the strategic perspectives. I mean, that's what we felt in terms of the ability to make the deal that we did. There is eagerness in China also for cell and gene therapy. I mean, you probably saw that the number of clinical trials and the number of activities in China is overtaking everywhere else in the world. So there is an opportunity, there is a desire, and we need also, again, to match The opportunities developing here in Belgium, with the opportunities developing in China, with a good matching, strategic alignment, good cultural fit in terms of the organization, and in that way deliver value to stakeholders, have fun delivering the science, and above all, bring value to patients, as that's our mission in the end.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. So strategic alignment and building trust between partners, I understand that is very key. So Fabrizia, you started, as you mentioned before, to really investigate the opportunities in China. Could you share your experience with the other Belgian companies?
Yes, indeed. So first of all, I think that a very important point is do not underestimate China and China capabilities. The fact that in the past China was known to be copycat or fake product, this is not reality anymore. China is an advanced country. They invest a lot in artificial intelligence, in high-level technology. So we should never think that we go there and we can just position our product and our solution as if they are not prepared to them. This would not be true. China has advanced, or sometimes even more advanced than Western countries when it comes about artificial intelligence and high-level technology. And it's very important to really understand if your product might be welcome. For example, in our experience at Radiomics, we are really leading specific research on the oncology burden that China has to manage. And we also really try to understand this from the government point of view. So for example, China has emphasized that China 5 high priority disease areas is cancer. The Chinese government Healthy China Action Plan and the National Precision Medicine Initiative, they both underline this point, and also the fact that China exhibit a unique epidemiological and patient profile, like for example, the fact that adenocarcinoma patients in China, usually for 61%, they present a specific EGR mutation, which is only present in 11% of the patients in the United States. So this is just an example, but it's really important not just to think the fact that China is big and so that the product will automatically address itself. You really have to find your niche, your specific need to meet. And do not, of course, think that you can do that alone. It's very important to find a partner which can help you with the bureaucracy, with the commercialization, and also in putting you in connection with the right people on the territory.
Thank you, Fabrizia. So clearly finding the right partner, starting with a niche strategy and expanding afterwards is your advice for the Belgian companies. Now moving to our Chinese colleagues. So Jean, could I have also your advice for the Chinese company willing actually to enter into the Europe market based on your Grand Pharma experience and AuroRNA for sure?
Thank you, Marc. I think I quite agree with Miguel Forte for the point, when we're talking about the Belgian company to explore the opportunity in China. So I want to share, 3 points here. I think firstly, it's also very important. We need to sort out the strategy for your potential partner. So which you must make sure it's complementary with your own. And the China pharma industry is at a very transformative period. And the opportunity for the faster follower and me too, or even me better, I think the opportunity has already been wiped out. So and also we understand that the policy in China, like the impact of the collective procurements of generic medicines, and even for the first-in-class medicines, that's quite profound in China. So I think knowing this kind of background will help you to understand the strategy for the China company. And secondly, I think we cannot underestimate the difference of the culture and also the business logic between China and the Western countries, and prepared for the cultural conflict. I think I'm quite lucky. My partner is a very seasoned entrepreneur with more than 30 years of biotech experience, and so it's quite easy for us to make a consensus. But I don't think this is a scenario for everyone. And the last one, I think we need to pay attention to the operational capacity of your partner. So we know that making decision is very difficult, but when you're operating on the ground, it's even harder. So thank you, Marc.
Thank you, Eugene. So really partnership is, I would say, the common advice of all of you, and finding the right partner is really the way forward. And now moving to you, you mentioned that you have already 15 years experience in Europe. So could you provide some advice to your colleagues in China attending the webinar today? What to do actually to enter and to develop your activities in the European market?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I think I will come from a different angles, because we as Chinese companies come to here to do the business. So I think, as I said before, to build the trust with the clients, with the collaborator is the first important thing. And also I think the European market appreciates this point, and they always want to build a long-term relationship. I think secondly, for other Chinese companies, so if they want to enter this market, I think come here and to feel the market and to meet people, talk to the people. I think it's quite straightforward to exchange ideas and maybe across the different opinions and the culture differences. So it may be difficult at the moment, but I think it's getting better in the next year.
Oh, thank you. Yes, coming and starting to engage actually with partner and discussing and finding the right one is a great advice as well. So now the roundtable is coming to an end. So I would like to thank all of you for your very insightful discussion and participation. And over to